been into planning and productivity basically since I learned how to write. I remember my first planner was one of those big, gaudy, spiral-bound planners that they give you in like middle school for you to plan classes and things like that. And I used that to plan my classes and my assignments and everything because I just couldn't get enough of the productivity vibe. Of course, growing up as a millennial in our technological age, I also tried every calendar app, productivity tool, digital to-do list manager that I could get my hands on or that I could reasonably get on my iPod Touch. And I loved it. I loved experimenting with all different types of productivity and planning, but the one thing I always returned to at the end of the day was a good old-fashioned paper planner. In this video, I want to talk about the effectiveness of writing and planning on paper versus in a digital format, and why I will always have a paper planner in my arsenal, even in the vast world of technological advancements. The first reason that I like to plan on paper is because it enables enhanced memory retention. So when I was in grad school, I took notes by hand almost 100% of the time, and I just took it in a big notebook like this. This is an actual example of the notes that I took for a class, and there are tons of studies that show that students who write notes on paper perform better in comprehension tests compared to those who use laptops or type. This is because your brain does something special when you take notes by hand. It takes the information you are hearing and it forces you to translate it into your own words in order to get it out on paper and into a kind of shorthand, right? My professor was lecturing during this, and I just was writing as fast as I could to get something out so that I could commit it into my notes. And in doing so, I was essentially memorizing, translating, and regurgitating the information on a very quick scale so that I could get it out in my own voice. Meanwhile, when you're typing things out, you can go so much faster, so you're actually just transcribing basically what you hear. And I think this really applies into paper planning versus digital planning as well. Because when I'm planning digitally, I will often end up just going into my task manager app or my calendar app and just like quickly writing something out and plugging it in for however many weeks or months in the future. And I just kind of forget about it until I come to that day in my calendar and I'm like, holy crap, I have to move work around, or I have a big meeting that I didn't even prepare for because I didn't actually commit that meeting to memory. I just wrote it down and then forgot about it. Meanwhile, part of my paper planning routine is that I will start off my months and weeks and sit down and write out every appointment that I have coming up in my paper planner. The act of handwriting all of that out helps me solidify the plans that were formerly just notes and calendar invites floating around in my email somewhere. But because I have written them out, I have committed them to memory. So at the start of a week, I'll come in here and I'll write down work, I'll write down team lunch, I'll note that I'm going to go see a movie, and then throughout the week, I just sort of develop a natural memory of what I'm doing when. Helps me make things on time, helps me prepare. The second reason I like to plan on paper is because it reduces distractions and helps me focus better. Tell me if this sounds like your experience. Every time you open your phone or your computer to check something in one of your many productivity apps, you end up opening social media instead. This happens to me all the time. This doesn't happen with paper planning because I've already put my to-do list and all of my appointments into my planner, so I can just look at the paper for reference. There's nothing in this little book that is going to pull my attention away to something unnecessary. This is just one little book. It is not the vastness of the internet, which leads to a lot less multitasking. I find that my cognitive load is reduced and my focus is increased because each time I switch tasks, it takes me on average like 20 minutes-ish to mentally feel like I'm back in the same task that I was working on before. Multitasking is a constant struggle in the productivity world, and I think paper planning really helps to pull you out of environments that actively encourage multitasking, such as a digital planning environment that has, your text message threads and your Instagram up on the same screen as the tool that you are using to plan your life. The third reason I like planning on paper over digital is because it improves my creativity. Handwriting on paper actually engages different parts of the brain associated with creativity and motor skills than using a computer does. Lots of studies show that brainstorming on paper is more effective than doing so in a digital space as well. And I think this is related to some of the connections with memory that we discussed earlier. It's a lot less easy to be distracted in paper, like I said, so you can enter the flow state of creativity a bit better when you need to map out plans or come up with new ideas. For example, here is a page that I did a start, stop, continue list on, and I love doing these types of mind maps. I do them all the time. I can't really achieve this type of mind map system
digitally very easily. And my brain is not really working the same way when I'm trying to create this digitally on like Photoshop or Sketch or something, as it does when I'm literally drawing connections, literally connecting things in my mind and then with my pen because of that mind-pen connection. I also use this to brainstorm like articles or things that I need to write. This is an example of, well, first of all, this is an example of what I used to plan like on paper. So it is very, very messy. But this is an example of an article that I was writing, and I brainstormed all of that on paper. And when I'm struggling to write, this is always the first step that I take because it helps to loosen up my mind and I can engage more creatively than digital tools. I mean, I'm literally drawing arrows here between different ideas that I then will pull into a more thorough and well-written article.
I want to hop in here and have a quick chat about how I know you have been using a password as your password for years. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. Look, we all know cybersecurity should be a huge priority for us, but almost none of us do anything about it because it is such a pain to have to come up with unique passwords for everything, memorize them, and somehow make your way through the internet. It's a huge pain. But when you use that little login with Facebook button everywhere around the internet, what do you think happens when someone gets access to your Facebook? Nothing good. That's where our sponsor, NordPass, comes in. NordPass is an all-inclusive password management system. You store all your usernames and passwords in their single, incredibly secure system, and then anytime you hit a login screen online, NordPass will fill in the blanks automatically. They'll even help create passwords by generating a super secure password for you anytime you create a new login on the web, so you never even have to memorize it in the first place. It gets automatically added to your password system, and it will be waiting for you the next time you want to log in. Their system is fully encrypted, which means nobody can see the contents of your password vault, not even the NordPass team. And they even have a data breach scanner, which is constantly being updated. So if there's been a leak anywhere online, they will let you know right away and help you change the relevant passwords. The security is awesome, but honestly, my favorite thing about NordPass is how fast it makes my life online. I never realized how much time I spent fiddling around on login screens until I had everything filled out everywhere online. It can also save other personal information like credit cards, which makes checkout pages a breeze, and it even syncs across all of your devices so you have your logins everywhere you go. So you won't be out of luck if you're trying to redeem your frequent flyer miles from the lobby of the airport. Not that that's ever happened to me, just saying. So go to my link below to get exclusive access to NordPass's best offer, risk-free, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Okay, let's get back to planning on paper.
Paper planning also increases my spatial awareness and gives me a sensory experience that really helps me remember and have a tactile relationship with my plans. So planning on paper is really good for those of us who are spatial thinkers because we are actively using tools such as a pen that has a specific feel, a specific sound, other tools that add color or decoration, of course things like rulers. All of this is associated with connecting your brain to creativity and creating something. And because you can feel it, it further cements those plans, ideas, things like that in your mind. I often develop a sort of muscle memory with my notebooks. On a desktop or a phone, it's like a completely flat and like touchless surface. So I can sometimes visually remember what a certain plan looked like or where it was in my phone, but with my paper planner, I can remember through more of my senses. Sight, obviously, I can see this. Touch, I can remember literally writing and what writing felt like. Plus, if I add stickers in, I can sort of remember via touch that like some of these stickers were smooth, some of these stickers have a little bump. Sound even, certain pages have certain crinkly noises that help me remember and locate my experience in the paper planner, and sometimes even smell, like certain paper has certain smells, right? All of this, when you're interacting with your paper planner, really helps you to recall the memories, plans, notes, everything you've logged in the paper planner versus a digital planning system, which doesn't have all of those sensory experiences associated with it. Personally, I also really like paper planning because as you get farther into your notebook, you can physically see how much time is taken up. So I hope this is coming across on camera, but you can literally see that these pages that I have used here are much more distressed. They have things sticking out of them. They have taped off sections. And at this point in my year, we're about 2/3 of the way through the year. About 2/3 of my planner is like filled up. So I can physically see what my progress looks like. This is really good for goal setting. At the start of the year, you've made only a little bit of progress on your goals and your plans, so maybe like a few pages of your planner are used, but by the middle of the year, you can kind of tell how far along you are because the pages will actually tell you. And that tactile feeling helps you kind of understand the space and time of your year in a way that digital planning alone and looking at a timeline on a screen alone sometimes can't really do. The last benefit, of course, is that you are not looking at a screen that much. The eye strain from using a screen is very intense. I have had vision problems my whole life, and my doctor always talked about the screen being the biggest concern. For most of us, we spend like 8 hours a day in front of our computer at work, and then like 5 or 6 hours a day at night on top of that on our phones or watching TV or something like that. So using my planners help me to not look at my screen as much, or at least to give my eyes a break throughout the day. Of course, looking at bright white paper of a planner can sometimes be an eye strain in and of itself. So I like to vary the kinds of paper that I am using. This is a more white type of paper here, but I also like to buy planners and notebooks that have kind of a yellowish color to their pages, which is a bit more softer on the eyes, or have darker grids so that my eyes don't strain as much trying to look at a lighter grid. Screen time isn't going to be the worst thing of your life, but it is about varying what your eyes are seeing so that your eyes continue to get the complexity of what they can fully see and continue to exercise those muscles.
It's important to note that the effectiveness of digital planning versus paper planning is going to depend on certain people, contexts, strategies, times in your life. Certainly, I still take advantage of some digital tools based on those contexts, and some of you may just still prefer digital planning because of its convenience and organization. But overall, the benefits of paper planning have been so great in my life that I can't and won't ever give it up. I'll probably be like a little great-great-grandma with my little notebook and my little pen in my little hospital bed planning like this forever. What do you think? Tell me down in the comments below if you think paper planning or digital planning is better, and if you combine them, how do you do that? I have a video on the screen right here about my combined system. Thank you guys so much for watching, for being subscribed, for being awesome. I love you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.